Welcome to a Community Partners interview, where we explore the organizations, opportunities, and resources that look to make change in our daily lives. I'm your host, Lilly Cereghini, and you're listening to Voices for Ability Radio, all abilities, all the time. Today, I'm joined by Gina Martin, who is the Disability Awareness Educator for the Diverse Abilities Program Incorporated. As a passionate advocate, dedicated educator, and compassionate speaker for the inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, and language, or IDEAL, Gina believes that fostering a deeper understanding of these concepts, along with practical, easy-to-implement strategies, is vital for creating workspaces and communities that work for all. Thanks for joining us today, Gina.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Gina, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to establish Disability Programs Incorporated?
So I have multiple disabilities myself, but in 1992, I was diagnosed legally blind. For the first 27 years of my vision loss journey, I wandered around this world pretending I was sighted because I didn't want to have people staring at me. I didn't want to be, labeled as somebody with a disability. I just wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be looked at different. And then in 2016, I met two women who were both confident and blind, and it blew my mind. And I had learned about the Louisiana Center for the Blind. And so I had spent 9 months down in Louisiana wearing a blindfold and being taught by people who are blind how to navigate life. So by taking away my weakest sight or my weakest sense, it taught me how to maximize my other senses and accomplish tasks with no vision at all, which that built my confidence and helped me to just kind of grow, step out of my comfort zones. And I just really felt like this was my calling to start bringing awareness to society about disabilities, because my disability isn't my barrier. My biggest barrier is social stigmas and attitudes and the lack of the built environment. Or the built environment, depending. And so that's why I started to develop the programs for diverse abilities, is just to start, creating the awareness that breaks through the barriers, because when we know what to say and do, it takes all that guesswork out. And so that's why I wanted to build my programs, from my own lived experience and wanting to just kind of shift how disabilities are viewed and understood, because every single one of us is going to age and every single one of us is going to have changing abilities. Just some of us have changing abilities earlier and for longer.
100%. I'd like to point out the fact that everyone will eventually be us if they live long enough.
Yes. And many people have had temporary disabilities, right? Broken ankles and pulled muscles. And, so they've needed to use things that are, that we use for accessibility, automatic door openers, elevators, learning different techniques. If you break your right hand, you got to figure it out with your left. So most people have had already a small understanding of what disability is.
Absolutely. And you and I also have very similar coming in stories. I didn't want to look blind when I was a kid, a preteen, so I wouldn't use my cane in public. And then I bashed into a display case at Museum London, got myself a giant bruise, and went, you know what? You look dumber with giant bruises all over you than you do with a cane. I also had blind friends and mentors, so I definitely had the community aspect going for me as well.
Nice. I didn't have a community before, but now the community is huge because, that's where we learn from, right? We
love it. Right? Exactly.
It's like, oh my goodness, you do that. That'll make my life easier. So sharing the tips and tricks, and there's more than one way to do anything. And that's what people have to realize. Like if one way doesn't work, there's definitely more ways to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
While doing my research, I saw that you have a couple of services that you offer. Can you tell us a little bit more about your services?
Sure. I'll start with my baby. My favorite is the Youth Adapt program. So that was the first program I developed because kids are our future. And if they don't know, they don't know. And most disabilities are non-apparent. I say non-apparent instead of invisible or hidden because nobody's invisible and nobody needs to hide. That's just how I term it. Help kids understand what non-apparent disabilities are, because there's 4 to 6 kids per class with non-apparent disabilities today that are diagnosed. So I go in, I bring hands-on activities so kids get an experience. We talk about, and problem solve ways of doing things. And it helps them to become outside the box thinkers. And if kids can be outside the box thinkers, they'll be great leaders. So we talk about blindness, and they learn about a cane, and they learn about, using common language. It's okay to use the words see, look, watch, or hear, or walk when people have disabilities. We use it all the time. We just do things a little bit different. They get to try those hands-on activities, then they get to share their experience, and then they get to share how they would make that task easier. So that helps them to become the outside the box thinkers. My non-apparent activities, especially when it comes to dyslexia, I think is the biggest shift. I've had kids come back to me and say they've never been bullied again since I presented to their class. And so that, to me, I'm doing my job. If kids are coming back and saying, this was my favorite presentation, and it's all around disabilities and language and kindness. I teach all the kids the alphabet in sign language. Could you imagine, if we taught from the very beginning the print letter A, the braille letter A, and the sign letter A right from the very beginning? Right? Wouldn't braille be an awesome alternative for kids who have dyslexia and learning differences? It could change their life to be able to keep up with their peers. As we age and our ability and our vision changes, we'd still be able to read our own mail and our own menu. If we all knew sign language, kids could ask questions in classrooms. I teach them small things like, excuse me, to go to the bathroom and to get a drink of water, because you don't have to disrupt the whole class to just ask for those small things. Teachers could talk to their kids in lockdown situations. We all visit people in shared hospital rooms. There's always sleeping babies around. Sign language would be such an amazing tool for all of us to know. Also, when we age, nobody would be left out of the conversation. Those skills, nobody would be left out.
That's a brilliant approach. I absolutely love that. I tried teaching myself a little bit of just rudimentary sign, and I can do my alphabet, but other than that, it's such a visual language. I struggle with it.
It is. I actually am working right now with a lady who is deaf. And so we text.
Yep.
Because I can dictate and my screen reader reads it, and then she can type and she can read it. And so I'm having her, yep.
That's how you do it.
So people ask, well, how do you do it? I'm like, technology is amazing in some aspects, but then it's also setting us back in others. And this is also part of the youth program. When I talk to kids about accessibility, because it's more than a parking spot, a bathroom, and a ramp, I will say, okay, when you guys start developing and building your products and your inventions and your designs, think about accessibility, because your abilities could change and it would be terrible to build something and you can't even use your own product. But I bring in the new technology today on the appliances and the stove. Everything's gone digital and I can't use it. And I can't even put my bump dots on where I need to press. And a lot of people don't really recognize or realize the impact that has. And, there's an app. But if the app isn't compatible with my screen reader, it's not accessible to me. And then
reach into the choir. I mean, the microwaves now with the flat displays, it's like, where's the one? I do have some sight, so I can navigate it. But people who have less sight than me, it's BS.
Yeah. It is. And so, if we can teach kids from the very beginning to be outside the box thinkers, to be inclusive designers, and they will be kinder human beings when they understand our differences, right? It's when they don't understand is when they make fun of, because they don't understand. But when they try something and they go, whoa, that's really hard. And my dyslexic exercise, which was my most powerful one, where the kids all have to read some things in different dyslexic forms. And then I will say to them, who here's ever felt overwhelmed? And it could be grandma's coming and I haven't seen her in a year. Overwhelmed does not have to mean negative, but when anybody feels overwhelmed, it's harder to focus and concentrate. And they all agree. I get the kids to clap for me because I can't see hands. It also keeps them awake. And I'll show them a more intensified version. And I'll say, when somebody who has a learning difference is trying to do their work, and some people might be finished and they're moving around, they're standing up, maybe they're snickering and laughing because somebody is taking so long. And that person looks down at their work again. They look at this more intensified version. And so then when I switch it back to the easier version, I'll say to them, do you think you would be tired at the end of the day if you had to read like this all day long? And the kids are all like, yeah. And I'm like, do you think at the end of the day, when you are tired after reading like this all day long and your classmates weren't supportive of you, do you think that you're going to go home feeling sad? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so what can you do as a class that's going to be supportive of somebody who just can't read as well as you? It doesn't mean that they're not intelligent. It just means that, you know, the way their brain is interpreting what they're seeing is different. And kids are like, whoa. And then I'm like, accommodation. So do you think that it's fair that somebody who's reading like this has more time to do a test? Yes. Okay. Do you think that it's fair that this person might have the teacher verbally give them the task? And they're yes. So it's also teaching them that accommodation isn't favoritism, that it's in place to support somebody so that they can thrive.
Mm-hmm. Twice in university, because the professor didn't enlarge the exam for me, I said to them, okay, let's go outside and do this verbally. And they were perfectly accommodating. It was fine, right? By that point, because I know how to stand up for myself at this point. But, you know, there are people who will still intentionally put up barriers because they don't get it. And they have attitudinal barriers because they haven't experienced us before. So you've already answered this question pretty thoroughly, and I love that. What are some common myths and misconceptions about your clients?
Well, you know, if you've met one person with a disability, you've only met one person with a disability, right? So some people who aren't connected in the disability community, they really don't know how different we are. We have one thing in common, and that's our diagnosis. And that's about it. Because even if we have the same diagnosis, we don't do things the same way. We don't have the same supports. We don't have the same opportunities. We don't have the same finances to purchase those things that make our life easier. So I don't assume that, you know, what one person does, everybody does. That's a really big thing.
Absolutely. Because even if you and I are both visually impaired, guarantee we do things differently. Guarantee. Yeah.
So, you know, that, and, you know, we can do things. We just do it different, like you just said. And I don't know. There's so many myths, and I have ADHD as well. So my brain has just kind of done that little halt in my head. So that will come back to me in a moment. Can you share a myth with me that you experience, and then that will make my brain go?
Actually, the reason why I do not appreciate the study of statistics as applied to human beings is that stats says we are 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can be compartmentalized into little groups, controllable knowledge, and you suddenly know everything there is to know about everyone in that arbitrary group. The thing is, humans are not 1, 2, 3, 4. Humans are 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. It's individuation.
Yeah. You know, it's always, you know, and another thing too that is a big thing is people are uncomfortable around disability. And unfortunately, you know, they don't always know what to say or do. They don't want to get it wrong. Us older folks were also taught, don't look, don't stare, don't ask questions. But one of the biggest, I'd say, problems that frustrate people in the disability community is when society speaks to the people that we're with.
Hate that. Hate it so much. Do not speak to the person wheeling my wheelchair, because I'm also a wheelchair user part-time. Speak to me, please. Please. Aye.
Yes. So that is one of the biggest complaints, is always speak to us and not the people that we're with. And if you don't know, ask us. You know, we'd rather you ask us and get accurate information about our needs than assume what we need.
Mm-hmm. There's a tonal difference here. There's why are you blind versus me getting asked by the bratty kid, why are you blind? You know, there's a difference in intent. If you come in with a good intention, actually seeking knowledge, yes, I'm going to answer your question because I'm not a jerk.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite encounters is when I'm walking, I've got my cane, and a parent pulls a child aside when the child says, "What's that?" That is like my favorite opportunity to educate. I'm like, oh, you know what? It is not helpful to be quiet around people who use a white cane. So our cane is white so that you know that we don't see well. And some of us don't see at all. I'm like, when you're quiet, I'm like, we feel left out and excluded because we don't know you're there. But when you say hello, a few awesome things happen for us. For one, I know you're there, so I won't accidentally trip you with my cane. For two, if I needed a question answered or I needed some help, I could ask you because you said hello and I know you're there. I said, your hello treats me like you treat everybody else because those of us who use a white cane usually cannot see those beautiful smiles and those nods and those waves and those kind gestures that people give each other all the time. So saying hello is a smile that we don't get to see. Um, and I'm more or less doing it to educate the parent, to be honest, because the parent is the barrier in that interaction. It's good to be curious. It's good to ask questions. But when you tell your child, oh no, don't ask those questions. What you're teaching your child is that person's different, so you're not allowed to talk to them, or you shouldn't talk to them, or you shouldn't engage, and that is completely wrong.
Mhm. You are correctively educating the child, but you're also winking and nodding at the parent. You know, it's like, yes, yes, I am here. Thank you for noticing.
Yes. Yeah. 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 And then I have a few other programs that I do offer as well. Like I say, my youth program really is my baby because kids are the ones who are going to change. I find, there's a lot of adults that might come to a workshop because they have to come to a workshop, not because they really want to be there. They're not my favorite to teach. I'm always happy to educate. And I'm sure that half of the people that walk away will have paid attention and learned something, but you do have a bit of the older generation that really just don't want to hear it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing about not being able to teach an old dog new tricks, I don't think that's true. Like, it just depends on exposure.
I agree. And I try to bring like humor into, my workshops. I'm not a slides and paperwork. I'm like, let's have the conversations. Let's get the conversations started that are sometimes awkward or uncomfortable so that they're no longer awkward or uncomfortable. And language is a really big part of my workshops because the way that we speak about ourselves and the way that we speak about others changes everything. And so I'm going to use my own personal lived experience for this example that I say to kids is, for the first, 29 years of my vision loss journey, I said I was visually impaired. That's the term I was told I'm given. And I would say it 5 to 20 times a day. Excuse me, I'm visually impaired. What bus is coming? Excuse me, I'm visually impaired. How much is this? And it was kind of the way I introduced myself to everyone. And then a friend of mine said to me, she's like, Gina, when you think of that word impaired, what do you think of? And I'm like, drunk, broken, something wrong with. And then she's like, so why are you always saying impaired when there's so many other things you could say? And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, there's low vision, there's vision loss, there's partially sighted, there's legally blind, there's hard of seeing. And she's like, all of those other terms are kinder than visually impaired. And I'm like, you know what? You are right. When I'm introducing myself as being impaired and talking about myself in that way over and over and over again every day, it's not a once in a while thing. It's a reinforcement thing. And so it took me about 6 months to break the habit of saying I'm visually impaired to I'm partially sighted or I have low vision. And wow, what a shift it made within my own self to not be using that word over and over again. And so I always say to people, if you don't know somebody, choose low vision until they tell you they prefer visually impaired or they use visually impaired themselves. Like, because I'm teaching society, right? So if a word is negative, yeah, it is and that's what I say. It's totally personal. But if you don't know, choose a word that's kinder. So instead of saying handicapped, say accessible. Instead of saying a disabled person, say a person with a disability until somebody says different, right? If you don't know, pick nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that works for me. I like to call myself blindish. Blind-ish, because I am blind-ish, right?
Blindish? Yeah. 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 I often refer to myself as blind because the vision I have is so little. People are like, oh, but you can see. I'm like, okay, if I have 10 fingers and I lose nine, am I not a paraplegic? I only have less than 10% 10% vision. I can't make out faces. I can barely see anything under magnification. So it's sometimes easier for me to say I'm blind than to try and explain what I can see.
I mean, like in school, in early school, they had me reading large print rather than Braille because in the majority culture, if you have any vision at all, you have vision, like you are sighted. Quotation marks she puts around that. So I would have these absolutely massive books, totally clunky, totally, like impairing actually, because I'd be carrying like 25 pounds of books on my back as opposed to reading Braille. Ay. No, stop perpetuating that lie, people. Yep, you still need to be literate.
Yeah. And Braille is, people are like, oh, well, isn't Braille going out? I'm like, no, it's a myth. We are always going to need to label things. It's just like print. People aren't printing as often, they're typing, but you still need to know how to print, right? They're reading. Right. They're reading audiobooks. They're not necessarily reading print books. So we may not be sitting down, a lot of us reading a full Braille book. But we still need Braille in order to, do our daily things, especially labeling things in our home, things that are important. We need to be able to identify things.
But by the way, we also invented audiobooks for our own use. And then the sighted communities got their hands on it and went, hey, we can make a lot of money at this.
Yes. I don't think society realizes how many of the tools they use today were actually invented for those of us who do navigate life different. The electric toothbrush, there's so many things, right? Yeah. Yeah. And it'll benefit, a lot of these things will also benefit people when they age.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then I have my ideal team building program is also really great because I teach businesses how to make the spaces that they have more accessible and inclusive and welcoming to everyone. And that's something, a lot of things that I walk out of those programs and people are like, oh my gosh, you gave me like 15 light bulb moments that I'd never even considered. And that for me, that lifts me up. I love hearing when people are like, I never thought about that, because that's going to be a shift that they're going to make in their space. And one of the big ones is payment terminals. Having those flat screen payment terminals affect so many people, people with tremors and Parkinson's, people who have had brain injuries, neurodivergent, seniors, low vision. When you take away our tactile buttons, you're taking away our independence.
Yep. Hate those things. Speaking of restrictions, are there any restrictions to the services at Diverse Abilities, such as age, caregivers or family members only, that kind of thing?
Any restrictions with Diverse Abilities? No, I'm actually creating a course right now for the sighted supporter because I know I have big energy. So when I'm meeting people with low vision, I'm like, oh, you could do this and this and this and this and make your life easier. And that's overwhelming for so many. And so when I work with a sighted supporter, I take out that overwhelm. And then they can introduce all of the things that I share with them, whether it's tools and devices, technologies, techniques. They can implement that at a pace that's comfortable for their loved one. Their loved one isn't overwhelmed, so it's not falling back on the sighted supporter. And so that's what I'm working on right now, is creating that. All of my presenters are people with disabilities. I have Vanessa Pettinger in Victoria. She's running my youth program, my ADAPT programs. And it's like that lived experience is really important with Diverse Abilities, because those conversations are what people really need to hear.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I like that. Always put us at the forefront of our own support, Without using any names, can you share a success story with me?
A success story? Oh my gosh, there's so many success stories. I have to say the kids ones. When kids come in and they have a better understanding, it's like, now I know how to help my grandma who has arthritis, like I didn't know before. And then having some seniors being able to go, I never thought I'd be able to cook again. I was scared to use knives. I'm like, oh, well, there's so many different tools you can use if you didn't want to use knives. There's scissors and there's pizza cutters and there's, so many different things. There's knife guards if you're worried about that. There's choppers that chop all your vegetables. And they're like, we did not know about all of these different things. And so having seniors like go, I can still be independent. I'm like, oh, yes, you can. We'll just do it a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't zig, then zag,
Yeah. And then having some employers go, I made some shifts in my business and I've had nothing but compliments, and not just from people with disabilities, but from other people. Like, I can invite my mom to come here because you have a variety of different chairs that she could sit in. You go into an office and usually everybody has chairs with arms or chairs without arms, and they all look the same, but not everybody can sit in chairs without arms or chairs with arms. Not everybody's the same size, the same height. If you don't have a space available for somebody who uses a wheelchair, what you are saying is you're not welcome here, or we haven't thought of you. And so have space for somebody who uses a mobility device, have a couple of chairs with arms, a couple without, have a taller bar stool and a bariatric chair. And what you have said is we have thought of all of you, just from the chairs that you have in your office.
Love it. Yeah, it's not an aesthetic choice. It's totally functional. I had a professor back in university. He's a wheelchair user, and he finds that the wheelchair accessible entrance to some buildings tends to be at the side or at the back with the garbage cans. And he says, what's the message there? We're the trash. Mind you, this is the same man who I'm pretty sure also coined the term crip time, which I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word, but it indicates the time it takes us to do the same thing that it would take a non-disabled person to do. So us, for example, cutting up our food could take longer because we're visually impaired than it would take someone who isn't. I don't mind visually impaired for myself, by the way. Sorry, that's the only reason why I'm using them.
Yeah, no, that you use what you want to use. We're all different, right? Absolutely.
Are there any events coming up for diverse abilities?
Oh, well, I have some speaking events that I am working towards right now, which is very exciting. I'm going to hopefully be presenting, because I have just had a conversation this morning, for optometrists and ophthalmologists on a big webinar across Canada, which would be amazing, because I just had an appointment this week and I interacted with 5 of the people in that clinic, and they were over there that way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys need to know how to better communicate and give better instructions. So that is an event that is coming up. And then I am heading back to Victoria to do a whole district school, which is going to be very exciting. So that's 17 schools that I get to present to. I'm going to be doing assemblies. And then what else is happening? I moved from Victoria to Edmonton last year, and that's a big move. When I started losing my sight in Victoria, moving to a bigger city, learning new roads, setting up a new house. So I gave myself the grace last year not to push my business. And I co-wrote 5 children's books on inclusion, diversity, accessibility, curriculum. It's going to meet curriculum for schools. They've got keeping the conversations going and activities at the end of each book, so teachers can keep those conversations going. They are sprinkled with tips and tricks on how to be inclusive. We are looking to release the first children's book in the fall. That's kind of for when school starts. We have the illustrator creating all of the images right now, which is so exciting because she's bringing our characters to life. And these characters are going to grow with children from kindergarten through to teenage years. So we are going to be writing this massive series on, just life experiences that kids are either experiencing themselves or they are, their friends are example. So, yeah. So
brilliant. I love literature for kids. Teach the kids. Teach the kids.
Yeah. And it's going to be fully inclusive. We are going to be offering a Braille overlay for those that want a Braille overlay. There's a lot of surprises in the books that we don't want to share right now. but to create more inclusivity, just better understanding. So, that's all to come. I can't spoil all the accessibility throughout the books. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. By the way, I'm 100% with you. I hate go there or it's over here. Where's here and there? There's no point of reference. Hate that. Look at whip as you get hit in the side of the head with whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch out and look out is also not helpful. Yeah. I'm like, oh, just say lady, white cane, stop, bike on left. Like you're saying 4 or 5 more words than stop, look out, watch out. And you've identified it's me you're talking to. You've told me what to do and you've told me why with like 4 extra words. It really is not that hard. Yeah. Yeah. And so then I'll also do some keynote speaking. I spoke for Goodwill for Dean last year, the Disability Employment Awareness Month. I spoke for the Teachers Convention this year in Edmonton. There's also speaking events that I like to do, and I like to bring in just the realness of I'm a real person. My eyeballs just don't work.
They're just there for decoration. It's what I say about my left eye. What is the one thing that you find happening over and over again to individuals with disabilities that shouldn't be? And how do you think we stop it?
Oh, it's a lot of it's accessibility. Like, it's not being done or it's talked about or it's being minimal standard. That I think is like, it's just creating another barrier. Yeah, you've done a minimal standard, but that still it's not usable for everyone. You say it's accessible, but it's not usable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. I mean, for myself personally, the wheelchair accessibility buttons on doors, I love those. But my bestie, who is completely blind, she really doesn't because they swing very silently open. She doesn't know what direction the door has gone in, nor does she know how long it's going to stay open for. So she prefers, for example, to manually open the door for herself. But accessibility for one does not necessarily equate to accessibility for all.
No, and I'm hoping, actually, you just brought that up. I am hoping to be part of a new shift. I'm working with a company right now, and we are looking to build a mini series. And he was just asking me yesterday. He's like, "Would it be helpful to have like a single beep as it's open and a double beep when it's open?" And I said, "Yes, yes." Yeah. And I said, and also don't have a silver button on a gray wall. Like those, you need color contrast. Right. And then I also said too, I'm like, don't have a black handle on a black frame door. Like you need that color contrast also on the handles. But yeah, adding an audible to a door opening would be amazing. Or even a voice opening to the left.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Right. Like something like, but it's in the talks right now. And who knows where it goes, but if we want to be inclusive, we have to be including all the groups. We can't just be including one that somebody who doesn't have a disability thinks that will benefit.
No, precisely, exactly. And we need to be at the head of these committees. Like we need to be the committees. Full stop.
Yes. Yeah. You need to have more than one person who's blind or one person who's using a wheelchair sitting at the table as well. Like you need to have multiple of us because it's like a round table. We all have different needs and we all have different abilities. And so, what works for one doesn't always work for another. So having a few different perspectives will allow you to build it so that it works for everyone. Not every wheelchair is the same size because not every body is the same size. So creating a door, this wide, yes, serves maybe a majority, but it is not useful for all of us.
Oh my goodness, you're a brilliant woman. No, for sure. And I mean, the difference between me and my bestie, I have low vision. She has no vision. People do not understand that those are two completely different disabilities. They see it as a matter of degree. It's not. Those are two different disabilities. So,
yeah. And every disability is a spectrum as well. People don't realize that. It's like, oh, I have low vision, but some people can see close up. Some can see far away. Some, have floaters or blind spots throughout, or like there's such a variety. And in my youth program, I share all those different like varieties as well, like, but with activities so that they get a better understanding of how we're all so different.
Absolutely. If someone wanted to become a client or volunteer with diverse abilities, or if they wanted to find out more information about you, where would they go to do that?
My website, diverseabilities.ca, gives you all the information about my programs. If you're looking to be a volunteer, depending on what area you're looking to be, whether it's working towards being a presenter, or if it's, wanting to help out creating some, digital visuals, things like that. That's something I'm always needing help with because computers are not my friend. I don't like them. I have an ADHD brain, so trying to remember keystrokes and commands, it just doesn't work for me. And then visually not being able to see, the graphics to create the clothing line that I'm working on, and other, visuals for social media. And so there's options of what we need volunteers for. So if you're interested, please reach out and we can have a conversation around that. I only have 7 designs right now. One of the sweatshirts, t-shirts says, "Say hello." It's the smile, nod, wave. I can't see. Yet, or we're all diverse in our abilities. That's another one. In an ideal world, everyone belongs. Be kind. Life is tough enough. So these are just some of the sayings I have, but I'm working on more. That will be going up on my website in the next couple of weeks. If you're interested now, you can just shoot me an email through my website and I can send you the link. But I'd like it to be on my website, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And you can just come to the website and have a look at the clothing line. And my phase 2 of the business will be the Easy Life store, where you'll be able to come. If your loved one has had a stroke, you'll be able to type in stroke or kitchen, and all of the tools and devices that will make life easier will pop up. And there'll be direct links to whether it's Amazon or whatever place is selling it. So I won't be personally holding those items, but you'll at least know where to go to get them. And they'll be there to support, all different disabilities, whatever room it is or whatever disability it is. So that's like the next phase of my business is the Easy Life store. I got a lot going on. It's exciting.
That's grand. Yeah, no kidding. You've got it going on. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Because like so many people now pay lip service to DEI, and it's like, we're very diverse. We accept diversity. We promote diversity. No, you don't. Shut up. Go sit in the corner and let the real people do the work here.
Well, and disability often isn't even included in DEI. Yeah, it's not even included. And I'm like, we are in every race, every gender, every age group, every culture, every demographic. Like we're everywhere. We are the largest minority in the world that anyone can join at any time. We are the easiest minority to join and the hardest one to leave.
Correct. Ugh.
Yeah, it's accessibility benefits everyone. Everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. 100%. 100%. I love that. I love that. That's actually a really good philosophy because we're not here to scare you. We're here to inform you. You are us.
Yeah, it's been great. And I'm glad I was able to share what I'm doing and the projects I'm working on. And this is just going to grow. I'm in the newer stages of my business. I only just, launched in 2023. So I'm not even 3 years in. And I kind of took last year off too. So, give it another year or two. And yeah, it's pretty amazing already.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today, Gina. I've had a really good time talking to you. You've been listening to a Community Partners interview on Voices for Ability Radio. I'm your host, Lilly Cereghini. And remember, folks, stick together because we are all in this together.